Picture a home you built with every ounce of your heart, a place where memories of love and loss are etched into every corner. Then imagine it under siege by those meant to protect it. My name's James Winters, and in Pinecrest Gardens. 2002, I faced a war against a corrupt HOA that would burn my world to ashes and spark a fight for justice you'll never forget. This isn't just my story, it's a warning and a call to stand up. Stay with me, because what happened next will leave you cheering for retribution. It began on a quiet May morning, the kind where the sun bathes Pinecrest Gardens in golden light, making my 3-story mansion glow like a beacon of hard-earned dreams. I was pruning the rose bushes my late wife, Clara, had planted, her pride and joy. Winners at the county fair 3 years running, when a sharp voice cut through the calm. "Mr. Winters, these bushes are 3 inches too tall." Karen Thompson, the HOA's aspiring president, stood on my cobblestone path, her clipboard clutched like a weapon, her smile as brittle as cracked glass. "Pinecrest has standards. Trim them by tomorrow, or it's $150 a day." I stared, dumbfounded, at the pink violation notice she thrust into my hand. 20 years I'd poured into this home, every brick laid with overtime checks, every window chosen with Clara's gentle nod. The roses, her final gift before cancer took her, were perfect. 3 inches? I said, my voice tight. "They're award-winning. Can't you bend the rules?" Karen's eyes narrowed, cold as the marble fountain Clara loved. "Rules keep property values high, Mr. Winters. Exceptions breed chaos." She snapped a photo of the fountain with her phone, her heels clicking as she marched away. By noon the next day, my mailbox overflowed with more notices, each a dagger to my heart. Unapproved water feature. Non-compliant mailbox. Excessive garden ornaments. I read them aloud, my coffee cold, my hands shaking. The ornaments were Clara's bird bath, a gift from our daughter, Sophie, now at college. It was May, not a holiday decoration in sight. Yet Karen claimed a wreath I'd missed removing was festive clutter. I glanced across the street at Douglas Miller, my neighbor, who waved nervously. "She's got you in her sights," he whispered, glancing at Karen's house down the block. "She's running for HOA president. Picks a few folks to bully every election to look tough. Her brother's a developer, buys the houses she forces out." His words sank in like a stone. This wasn't about roses or bird baths. It was a shakedown. That evening, I found my fountain's pump jammed with gravel, water pooling on the lawn. Scratched into the marble was "comply." My rage flared. Someone, likely Karen's crew, had trespassed to send a message. I installed a security camera by the driveway, its red light a silent vow to fight back. But Karen wasn't done. Another notice arrived, claiming my vintage Corvette, Clara's dream car, was improperly parked in my own driveway, demanding it be garaged or towed, desperate for answers. I dug through old HOA files in my attic, hoping to understand Karen's game. Amid dusty binders, I found a yellowed ledger from 1995 tucked inside a folder labeled Pinecrest Confidential. It listed payments from a Thompson Realty to HOA board members, thousands of dollars marked consulting fees. My pulse quickened. Was this Karen's family? The ledger hinted at a pattern: homes targeted, sold cheap, bought by Thompson's firm. I hid it in my safe, knowing it was a weapon, but not yet how to wield it. The next blow came at the HOA meeting, my first ever, held in the community center's stuffy hall. Karen sat at the board table, not yet president but clearly in charge, her allies nodding like puppets. I stood to protest the fines, now $2,200, clutching photos of my pristine home. "My property's the most valuable here," I said. "Why only me?" The board president, a tired man under Karen's thumb, cut me off. "Compliance first, appeals later." Karen's brother, a slick developer I recognized from billboards, smirked from the back, sketching on a notepad. Driving home, I saw his car at Karen's, their silhouettes arguing behind closed curtains. Something was rotten in Pinecrest. That night, an email pinged. "Emergency HOA inspection tomorrow, 127 Whispering Pines Lane, for electrical hazards." My gut twisted. The house passed a city inspection weeks ago, Clara's last project, ensuring every wire was safe. Karen's inspection reeked of sabotage, and with the ledger's secrets burning in my mind, I knew this was no coincidence. I couldn't shake the feeling that my home, my sanctuary, was a pawn in a much darker game, one I was only beginning to understand. The ledger I'd found in the attic, with its cryptic payments from Thompson Realty, haunted me as I prepared for Karen Thompson's so-called emergency inspection. Her email had arrived like a veiled threat, claiming my home at 127 Whispering Pines Lane posed electrical hazards. My wife Clara's meticulous upgrades to our wiring, her final gift to keep our mansion safe, made the accusation laughable. But the chill in my gut told me this was no routine check. Pinecrest Gardens, once a haven of neighborly trust, now felt like a battlefield, and I was determined to protect my family's sanctuary. At 7 a.m., Karen's silver Cadillac rolled up, followed by a van marked Pinecrest Safety Crew. 3 men in ill-fitting HOA polo shirts spilled out, their tool belts clanking, while Karen hovered with her clipboard, her pearls glinting like a predator's eyes. Mandatory inspection, the tallest man barked, flashing a badge that looked like it came from a costume shop. My lawyer says you need 24-hour notice, I shot back, keeping the door chained. Karen's smile didn't waver. Sparks were reported from your roof, Mr. Winters. We're protecting the neighborhood. Sparks? My electrical system was city certified last month. I relented but followed them, my camcorder rolling, capturing every move. They swarmed my basement, lingering at the circuit breaker, one man slipping into my study alone until I blocked him. Just checking outlets, he muttered. But his eyes darted to Clara's oak desk, where I kept our family photos. Karen, meanwhile, snapped pictures of my chandelier, claiming its bulbs were non-compliant. As they left, I noticed a camera by my garage installed after the fountain vandalism had been spray-painted black. My heart raced. This wasn't an inspection, it was a setup, and my home was in their crosshairs. I called Douglas Miller, my neighbor across the street, whose nervous wave had tipped me off about Karen's tactics. Ever had an HOA safety check? I asked. Never, he said, voice low. That's not their job. Only licensed electricians can do that. And his wife, Stephanie, joined the call, her tone urgent. Last year, Karen's crew tore up the Wilsons' garden overnight, no proof, but their house flooded weeks later, sold to her brother for pennies. Be careful, James. Their words echoed the ledger's secrets, and I knew I had to act fast. That afternoon, I backed up Clara's photo albums and our daughter Sophie's childhood drawings to a safe deposit box, my hands trembling as I touched her handwriting. In her desk, I found a letter she'd written before her death, sealed and addressed to me. James, it read, if the HOA ever turns on you, check the old board minutes. I saw things, meetings, payments that worried me. Protect our home. My throat tightened. Clara had sensed trouble years ago, and now it was here. I scoured our attic again, finding 1990s HOA minutes mentioning land rezoning tied to Thompson Realty. The pieces were falling into place. Karen wasn't just after my mansion. She wanted the entire block for her brother's condos. By evening, I'd added motion sensors around my property, their soft beeps a faint comfort. Driving home from the bank, I spotted Karen and her brother, Carl, parked 2 blocks away, their heads bent over a map. When they saw me, they sped off, but not before I caught Carl's glare. At midnight, my phone rang. A blocked number. Back off, Winters, a raspy voice hissed. You don't know who you're messing with. I gripped the receiver, my resolve hardening. They thought they could scare me, but they'd underestimated a man with nothing to lose but his home. The next morning, Douglas slipped me a USB drive, his hands shaking. Eleanor, a board member, got this from the clubhouse security system, he whispered. It's from Karen's closed-door meeting last week. I played it that night, my jaw dropping. Karen's voice crackled through, once Winters is out, we rezone the whole street. Carl's condos will make us millions. But we need his lot first. Her brother added, a little pressure, fines, accidents, works wonders. The video showed plans not just for my land, but for raising half of Pinecrest Gardens. This wasn't a scheme. It was a conspiracy to destroy our community. Fines poured in daily. Now $8,500 for ongoing non-compliance and safety risks. The Karen hosted a community safety meeting at her house, which I wasn't invited to, but Douglas texted updates. She's showing doctored photos of your house, calling it a hazard. Carl's pushing to seize it via eminent domain. I knew I had to fight back. At a city council meeting, I presented the ledger, USB video, and photos of my pristine mansion, my voice steady despite the crowd's murmurs. The HOA's targeting me to steal my land, I said. The council promised an investigation, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. But hope was fragile. That night, as I pulled into my driveway, my security system was offline, the control panel dark. I grabbed a flashlight, my pulse pounding, and checked the circuit breaker in the basement. It was flipped off, but as I reached for it, a crackling sound echoed from upstairs, followed by the acrid smell of smoke. My home, Clara's legacy, Sophie's childhood, was under attack, and I was running out of time to save it. The crackling upstairs and the stench of smoke confirmed my worst fears. My home, Clara's legacy, was burning. I raced through the mansion, flashlight shaking in my hand, the air growing thick with heat. Flames licked the walls of my study, devouring Clara's oak desk where Sophie's drawings once lay. I grabbed our wedding album, its edges singed, and a locket Clara wore, her mother's, passed down through generations. The fire extinguisher was useless against the inferno. "Get out!" I shouted to myself. Coughing as I stumbled outside, sirens wailing in the distance. Pinecrest Gardens' golden glow was now an orange hell. My 3-story sanctuary crumbling before my eyes. Neighbors gathered, some in pajamas, others clutching phones, their faces pale. Through the crowd, I saw Karen Thompson across the street, her arms crossed, a faint smirk curling her lips. She wasn't calling for help or offering comfort. She was watching her plan unfold. My legs buckled, and I sank to the curb. The album and locket clutched to my chest. 20 years of dreams, Clara's roses, Sophie's swing set, my rare book collection, turned to ash. "Electrical fault in the breaker," the fire chief said, his voice heavy. "We'll investigate." I shook my head, hoarse. "It's no accident. I had it certified last month." In the hotel that night, numb with grief, I called my insurance agent, expecting relief. "I'm sorry, Mr. Winters," she said, "but your policy was amended 3 weeks ago to exclude fire damage." My heart stopped. "I never changed it." I roared, demanding the paperwork. The fax arrived, and there it was, my signature, forged so poorly it mocked me. The USB video from Eleanor, showing Karen and Carl plotting to seize my land, now made sickening sense. This was arson, orchestrated to break me, and they thought I'd walk away. The fire report came 2 days later, confirming my suspicions. The breaker was deliberately overloaded, the investigator said. Someone tampered with it during that HOA inspection. Douglas Miller's doorbell camera had caught Karen and 2 inspectors entering my home with a toolbox, one lingering at the breaker. I took the footage to the police, my hands shaking with rage, but Karen's husband, a retired police captain, had friends in high places. "Not enough for charges," the detective said, avoiding my eyes. "We need more." Frustration burned hotter than the fire, but I wasn't done. Digging deeper, I learned Carl Thompson had quietly formed a shell company, Crestview Holdings, weeks before the fire. Public records showed it owned 7 properties in Pinecrest, all bought at a fraction of their value after HOA campaigns drove owners out. My lot, the largest, with unobstructed mountain views, was their crown jewel for a luxury condo project. The ledger from 1995, with its consulting fees to board members, tied Carl's family to decades of scams. But a new clue emerged from the ashes, a charred scrap of paper, found in my study's ruins, in Clara's handwriting. Karen's sister, Ellen, knows the truth. It read, dated a year before Clara's death. Had Clara uncovered their scheme? I vowed to find Ellen, whoever she was. Then, a twist I didn't expect. Late one night, my hotel phone rang. "I was at your inspection," a nervous voice whispered. "Karen paid me to mess with the breaker. I didn't know it'd go this far." It was one of her safety crew, now scared and ready to talk. "Meet me tomorrow, alone," he said, naming a diner. I agreed, my mind racing. If he was telling the truth. I had a witness, a crack in Karen's armor, fueled by rage and Clara's memory. I met my banker the next day. "Liquidate my investments," I said, voice steady. $6 million, today. His eyes widened. "That's everything, James. Are you sure?" I nodded. The USB video had revealed Evergreen Community Management. The private firm running our HOA was up for sale, 30% of it, enough to shake their world. I bought it through a shell company, my lawyer ensuring no one knew I was the buyer. Karen thought she'd won, but I was about to turn her game upside down. A certified letter arrived, signed by Karen, now HOA president, demanding I clear my unsightly burned lot within 10 days or face $500 daily fines. The audacity fueled my resolve. The HOA called an emergency meeting to discuss the Winters property, claiming it was a chance for a community park. Douglas warned me it was a ruse. Carl's blueprints showed condos, not swings. I slipped into the community center's back row, unnoticed, as Karen took the podium, her pearls gleaming under fluorescent lights. "The Winters lot is a blight," she declared, clicking through doctored photos of my charred home. "We'll buy it with reserve funds for everyone's benefit." I stood, my heart pounding but my voice calm. "I have a question, Karen." The room fell silent, her face paling as she recognized me. "Under what authority do you plan to steal my land?" Gasps echoed. I handed out copies of my purchase agreement for Evergreen. 3 days ago, I became the largest shareholder in the company that owns this HOA. Tomorrow, I'm calling for an audit of every fine, every deal, starting with yours. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands, her empire trembling. I wasn't just fighting for my home, I was fighting for Pinecrest. And I was only getting started. The Pinecrest Gardens Community Center was packed, the air thick with tension as I stood in the back row, my purchase agreement for Evergreen Community Management burning a hole in my pocket. Karen Thompson, now HOA president, strutted to the podium, her pearls catching the light, oblivious to the storm I was about to unleash. Her slideshow of my charred mansion, twisted to look like a slum, fueled my resolve. I'd lost Clara's roses, Sophie's drawings, our home, but I hadn't lost my fight. Karen thought she'd broken me, but today, Pinecrest would see her empire crumble. "Mr. Winters has no business here." Karen snapped when I rose, her voice shrill as I approached the front. "Oh, I think I do," I said, handing out copies of my Evergreen ownership papers. "As of 3 days ago, I own 30% of the company that runs this HOA. Tomorrow, I'm ordering a full audit of every fine, every deal, every secret you've buried." The room erupted in gasps. Karen's clipboard clattered to the floor, her face ashen. "This is absurd," she stammered. But the seeds of doubt were sown. Douglas Miller stood, trembling but defiant. "They fined us $10,000 for a patio we never built. We lost our home to her brother's firm." Stephanie, his wife, added, "The Kaplans, the Wilsons, same story. Karen's been bleeding us dry." The crowd's murmurs grew to a roar as neighbors shared their pain, elderly couples forced to pay consulting fees to avoid violations, families harassed until they sold at a loss. I pulled out my trump card, the USB video from Eleanor. "Let's hear from Karen herself," I said, plugging it into the projector. Her voice filled the hall. "Once Winters is out, we rezone the street. Carl's condos will make millions." Carl, in the back, bolted for the door, but 2 police officers I'd tipped off blocked him. "Mrs. Thompson," one said, "you're coming with us to discuss a fire at 127 Whispering Pines." Karen lunged at me, screaming, "You'll pay for this!" Her husband held her back, but her reign was over. The audit began at dawn, my lawyers tearing through Evergreen's records like hawks. The truth was uglier than I'd imagined. Karen had targeted vulnerable residents, widows, retirees, forcing them out with fines as high as $15,000. Her consulting service extorted thousands, funneled to Carl's Crestview Holdings. which bought 6 homes for a planned commercial complex that would have gutted Pinecrest's charm. But a new lead emerged. Ellen, Karen's estranged sister, mentioned in Clara's charred note. I tracked her to a small apartment an hour away. "I cut ties with Karen years ago," Ellen said, handing me a box of old HOA contracts. "She bribed board members in the 90s to rezone land. Clara caught her but got sick before she could act. The contracts tied Karen to a decade of fraud, sealing her fate. Another twist came when Carl cornered me outside the community center, his slick smile gone. "Name your price." "Winters," he hissed. $10 million to walk away." I laughed, cold and steady. "You burned my home. Carl, no money buys that back." He leaned closer, voice low. "Accidents happen to stubborn people." I recorded every word on a hidden tape recorder, a trick Clara taught me. That tape, with Ellen's contracts and the inspector's confession from the diner, went straight to the district attorney, who finally took my case seriously. The trials were swift and brutal. Karen was sentenced to 10 years for arson, fraud, and extortion. Carl got 7 for conspiracy and tampering. 2 board members took plea deals. Exposing more of Karen's web, I used my evergreen stake to help victims, the Kaplans, now in their 80s, wept as I handed them keys to their old home. Bought back from Crestview's assets, the Millers moved back, their kids racing through familiar rooms. Crestview Holdings, seized in the investigation, became Pinecrest Affordable Homes, funding cottages for families in need, a tribute to Clara's dream of community. 9 months later, I stood on my rebuilt lot, watching cranes lift beams for a new mansion. It wasn't just a house, it was a beacon. The East Wing held a community hall, a library for Sophie's old books, and a room with Clara's locket displayed. Her memory woven into every brick. I planted new rose bushes, their buds a promise of renewal. Neighbors, once afraid to speak, now gathered for barbecues, kids playing under strings of lights. Sophia Rodriguez, our new HOA president, jogged over with plans for a block party. 50 families signed up, she beamed. A far cry from Karen's reign of fear. The scandal rippled beyond Pinecrest. My story, splashed across local news, sparked investigations into HOAs in 3 states, with families in Ohio and Texas citing my fight to demand transparency. I set up a legal fund to help them, funded by Evergreen's profits. At a candlelit dinner on my construction site, Mrs. Kaplan raised her glass. "To second chances," she said. Stephanie added, "and to standing up to bullies." I looked at the stars, feeling Clara's presence. Karen had tried to burn my world, but from the ashes. I'd built something stronger, a community united, a legacy reborn, and a warning to every corrupt HOA that justice always finds a way.